Hello and welcome to another episode of Dental Lab Insights. And I'm delighted to say I have Frankie Acosta with me today from AA Dental Design in California. Frankie, welcome.
Welcome.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. So I know you're big on digital dentures, so I just wanted to start off by asking you a little bit about where that sector's at and your kind of use of it.
I believe that that's like the next phase in digital dentistry, right? You know, like we sort of already conquered the digital dentistry or the digital crown and bridge world. You know, there's almost nothing you can't do digitally when it comes to, you know, crown and bridge. And I think now it's, you know, what can we do when it comes to removals, you know, for the partials, dentures, you know, stuff like that. And I think that, you know, being able to do things a lot faster, I'm not going to say better because you always need the hands-on touch, but your tools, you know, get you from A to B a lot faster when it comes to a digital workflow. So I'm excited about it. You know, I think it's going to be I think it's a new era. That's what I think.
And do you see, I mean, in terms of take-up from dentists, are you seeing, are we at the early stages here, or are you finding that there's a lot of interest in this?
We're at a very early stage because, you know, when we talk about a digital workflow, it you know, for me at least, my definition of it is, you know, it has to start digital from the doctor, you know, basically gets sent through the internet, right? And then we'll be able to then continue it digitally to then send it back, right? So, I mean, where we stand today in the crown and bridge world, I have doctors that will design a case, right? Or, I'm sorry, scan a case, send it to us, we design it, we send it back, and they mill it, chairside, right? It could be anywhere around the world, right? So if you think about what we might be able to do with printers, what we might be able to do with, you know, different materials when they hit the market, you know, think about it like that. You know, a patient comes in, you scan the patient, you know, send it through the internet. We design a denture, you know, send it back through the internet and have something being printed, you know, in London. You know what I mean? Amazing. While the patient's sitting in the chair.
Yeah, amazing.
You know, so that would be interesting.
So it's digital transformation hitting the sector, I guess. And how do you think dental labs can kind of get onto this, not a bandwagon, but this kind of get onto this wave of digital transformation? What do they have to do in order to best benefit from it?
You know, like my laboratory grew behind education, right? You know, it's educating what was to what is now. Right, it's sort of, you know, understanding that you're taking an analog world that is not, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But when you add some tools, which is like, you know, CAD CAM or you know, computers, all that stuff, is how do you change your mindset and say, okay, I have the knowledge of how to do, let's say, a denture, but now how do I do it, you know, digitally? And so that's even my laboratory. In the past, that's how it changed. You know, I was an analog laboratory that had to go through the relearning of how to do dentistry. And so, you know, at the end, it is a curve. You learn it, and then when you understand it, then you can grow with it. And that's where we stand today. Yeah.
So the education side of things, I guess that has to start at the dental lab level. So you have to also understand the technology yourself. How does a lab best go about, you know, putting a foot forward into starting that process of learning? I mean, where do they start?
I mean, you know, like even my laboratory, we do a lot of courses from basic all the way to whatever. So we have set up courses that sort of pertain to what we do at our lab, right? So when it comes to, let's say, an all-on-4, this is how we do it. So we'll do a course digitally on how to do it that way. Or smile designs, like I do one with Dr. Daniel Vasquez, and we show how to do a digital smile design, you know, from start to finish. And so I think that, you know, like my place, you know, Jay Black in Florida, there's a lot of different laboratories out there that are starting to open up their doors to train and to show, because we believe in it. And if we believe in it, we want everybody to learn it, because, you know, we can't have somebody say, well, no, digital doesn't work just because they don't have a good experience with it, right? Or they haven't given it the opportunity, you know, to kind of grow in their own world, right? And so they're like, you know, they shy away. Well, I don't want that because I've invested, you know, in that world. My laboratory is 100%, you know, digital. We don't really play well with analog doctors. So, you know, at the end, I can't have a doctor call me and say, yeah, I'm not going to send this digital because, laboratory down the street said this sucks.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly.
So for me, it's important.
Yeah, and you talk about obviously digital dentistry being, and digital dentures in particular being at a very early stage of this kind of wave of transformation. What's your kind of view on what the lab of the future might look like? In 5 years' time, what's it going to look like?
I believe, honestly, for those that have come to my laboratory, I believe my laboratory is sort of like the beginning phases of the lab of the future, right? Our model department is basically like a table because we definitely need to pour up some kind of models every once in a while, or we get a case that comes in and stuff like that. But we design, we mill, we accept files from doctors, we mill their files. We design cases from for doctors, and then they mill. We print stuff. It's kind of like a whole different piece, right? It's kind of like being chairside without really being chairside sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to, I think that the doctors in moving forward, those are the kind of laboratories that they're going to look for. The days of you walking, and I've been around for a long time. Don't let these grays fool you, but it's been a long analog road where you used to go into a doctor's office, and the next thing you know, you're giving them a price list, or you're showing them how amazing you are, And at this point, it's kind of like, okay, let me show you workflows. Let me show you digital workflows, and the doctors are now listening because they are also now starting to look at that whole digital workflow on their end, and they don't know, so they don't know where to go. And so I think that it's going to be very important for laboratories growing. I think it's going to be very important for those laboratories to understand where our industry is probably going to head.
Yeah. And so when you go in to see a doctor now, what would you advise a dental lab, how best to approach someone now?
Like I said, I can't say the last time that I walked into a doctor's office and more or less talked about, so how many crowns do you do a month? You know what I mean? Like, I would have to tell laboratories that the most important part is just have the knowledge to be able to now answer the questions for the doctors. That's how I grew my laboratory. Right. My laboratory was all about education. And so if a doctor comes to you and says to you, hey, I just bought this system, and how does this work, and how does that work? Because trust me, I'm not saying nothing about sales reps, but I'm saying that they're looking for the same knowledge that we are on the dental lab side. And so we need to educate ourselves so that we then become their go-to people.
Yes, yeah. So you become a sort of an advisor or a technology partner, as it were. So
it is. We're only a click away, right? So it's like a button that they press, and then all of a sudden we respond on the other side. So then we need to be able to respond to whatever it is that they're looking for. And again, growing a business under education, it makes you, I guess, the go-to person, if you really understand it.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's really the labs that are driving the technology to the doctors rather than the other way around?
I think, in my opinion, in the lab world, we've always been reactive, right? So if a material hits the market and we have a doctor that calls us up and says, hey, do you do lava? We don't know what it is, but what we do is at that point we start Googling and trying to find out how we're going to sell a lava, right? Like way back when, which would then make you spend money. So I believe that it's still sort of coming from the doctor's side when it comes to digital, because they're going to be investing in digital, and then they're going to be pushing the laboratories to also change their ways.
Yes, interesting. And do you think there's one technology at the moment that is particularly breaking through, that you're seeing dentists are really interested in at the moment?
I think digital dentures. Digital dentures right now. If I was to pinpoint something right now, I think when it comes to that restoration, it's on everybody's mind. How do you do a digital denture? Can it be faster? Does it fit better? Does it look better? Does it, what is the process? What's the workflow? If I have a scanner, how do I scan? What is the whole process? And I think that's like the biggest thing. In events that we go to, that's the number one question that they ask us.
Am I right in thinking that some dentists have sort of shied away from doing dentures for a number of years because there's too much trouble kind of getting them right, getting them fitted, and those sorts of things?
I think it's true. Look, at the end, my lab, I used to own a laboratory years ago that was a denture laboratory, and I closed it down just because, for me it was just too much of a headache. And now we're revisiting it, business-wise. We're revisiting it because it's digital.
Yes.
And so now we're opening up our doors to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the same thing happens, with the doctors as well.
Yeah.
They shy away, but now they're like,
Yeah.
this is cool.
Actually, I might come back to this now.
Yes, exactly. No, true.
Fantastic. Frankie, that's been brilliant to get your insight into the digital dentistry world, and thanks very much for your time.
Oh, thank you for
Really
having
nice
me.
to see you. Thanks for coming.
I enjoyed it.
Another episode of Dental Lab Insights coming to you soon.